Okay, this is Stacy, and in this video we are going to look at each of the sheets of our plumbing set. Now this project in particular is multi-story, but we're just going to look at one of the floors. We're also going to look at the roof plumbing plan, some enlarged plans and why they have those and where that comes from. We're going to look at the plumbing equipment and the plumbing details. It is very important that you have a full understanding of your job, no matter what it is. And at times, the MEPs, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, can be difficult to decipher if you don't know how to jump from sheet to sheet to sheet. And also, every contractor will probably have to visit another set at some point in your life. And so you really need to know how to navigate through all the sets. And that's why I'm putting as much detail as I can to each of the sheets and putting everything for my students who have quizzes related to this and for everyone on YouTube. So hopefully you enjoy. Join, like, subscribe, and give me your recommendations on anything else you think you may need help with. I'd be more than happy to put something up here for you. So let's talk about, and let me take notes, let's talk about what's on the plumbing cover sheet. Okay, so where are we at? Plumbing. Okay, hold on one second. Cover sheet. All right. At 144. That's a good number. Okay, now every cover sheet should give you a few things. The main thing is what sheets are comprised within the set. It really depends on the engineer, the mechanical engineer, what they want to put on there, but there are some, some things that, by legal requirement have to be there. Okay, so right band information always has to be there. And if it is has been approved for construction, there should be a permit date somewhere on there, and I don't see any here. It may be on the architectural set on the first sheet, but you always want to look for that. And the right band is going to give us all the project information, the name, the address, and the sheet number, always at the lower right, and then the name of the sheet above it. Okay. Here on this one, they're showing us the sheets that are comprised within the set. And again, this is a multi-story project. And so, yeah, we're going to go through one of the floors, the roof plan, and everything else we see here. Okay, so yeah, it's good to know what is there so you can just jump to the sheet you need to jump to and go for it. What they have also here are a lot of the plumbing specifications that you will find in the actual specs. So they give you specifications in the plans just for convenience, but I would never rely on them alone. I would definitely read, review in detail your plumbing specs that come with the project, take notes, and then look into the, construction documents and start to take your measurements and, go for it. All of your symbols here, a lot of boilerplate stuff. Okay, so it may or may not be appropriate. Like, I got one that I worked on that had a GW, which typically does mean grease waste, but it didn't mean grease waste on that project. It meant something totally different, and it was part of the domestic water plan. And so you just want to make sure you're in line with what's there and have a full understanding, and know that a lot of the standard stuff in any set of construction documents may just be boilerplate and may not to the fullest detail apply to the other sets, the sheets in the set that you're looking at. Okay, so cover sheet, sometimes it will have a responsibility schedule, meaning who's supplying, who's installing, and it gives you that information. So in the event you don't have to supply the plumbing equipment, you'll know that. It may have it somewhere else within the set, but just not on this cover sheet. Okay, and then coding information based on where the project is. So yes, you have to comply to those codes. Symbols, section views, call out depending on how they use them, section view markers and how they mark the equipment. They're showing what symbol they use for the equipment, what symbols they use for the keynotes and for revisions, and the elevation symbols and new connections. So note that new connections look a lot like elevation symbols. So make sure you're, reviewing it in detail, understanding what you're looking at. Okay. So that's the cover sheet. Very simple, not much. All the sheets comprised within the set. Some, if I wanted to know really quickly if, as far as piping, if I had to use cast iron, which again, I'm going to read the specifications long before I get into the plans. But if I'm doing it the lazy woman's way, then I'd look here real quick under piping and whatever. Yeah, let's see. They'll tell me, okay, schedule 40 black steel pipe, and then okay, is not permitted. Okay, steel pipe, galvanized piece is not permitted. So yeah, we probably have to compress the air. Okay, so yeah, all of that makes sense. So you want to make sure the gas pipe, those are very important kind of things. Stone now will be provided with factory. Okay, yeah, okay, all right. So those are the things you want to look for, just in case something is out of the ordinary, and definitely before you start to price it, right? All right, so that's the cover sheet for this project, and abbreviations, symbols, everything here. But understand, it's not the Bible. It's boilerplate. It may not apply. It may not. But just be aware. So now we're going to go on to a flooring plan for plumbing. Okay, now we're looking at a very, very simple plumbing plan. And let's look at some symbols here. Okay, so what this is this is called a call out. And it's a detail call out. And what it is telling us is that if we go to, and it's always read this way, the picture, the page number. So if we go to image or picture number 1 on page P2.1, we'll get more detail about what they're calling out basically in this square. Okay, but this is very simple, some simple plumbing. This indicates either pipes are going up or down, and that's why we have a riser diagram. Okay, so for plumbing has 3 different, and this is small, relatively small. Okay, it is small. It's nothing big. It take you 2 seconds to do this takeoff. But when we talk about plumbing, like when we talk about most things, right, there are more than one dimension to our plumbing, right? What we see on the plan is the horizontal measures. So it's the horizontal measure that's running through the building. Okay. We also have a vertical measure, just like with electrical and with the HVAC ductwork going down or up. That's the vertical measure. And on our plumbing set, we have what's called a riser diagram. If there's a lot of places where the pipes are going vertically up and down, okay, then you'll have a riser diagram that will show it going up and down. Okay, and I'm hoping this one has one. Probably not, but the symbol for a pipe going up and down or down is this little C. I guess from this perspective you could say it's a C. That tells me that there's this size pipe, whatever it is going up or down. And keynote number 6 is probably telling me. Okay, and so we're going to look at keynote number 6. 6-inch RDL ODL. So rain, roof drain leader, overflow drain leader. That's what those are. Down on wall, run 6-inch out of wall at 12-inch, probably 12-inch above floor grade. So it's telling you to take the overflow one and bring it out of the wall 12 inches above ground, basically. All right. Downspout nozzle on da 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 da. Okay. So, that's pretty simple. So, horizontal measure, we would just measure how many linear feet. And then our vertical measure, okay, it says roof drain leader. So, that would tell me that I'm going to the roof. So, there'd have to be somewhere I'd have to determine the height of the roof, right? And that's why it's important that you know how to navigate other sets of plans, because if you're not given the height of the roof in the plumbing set, or given, the height of the roof in the plumbing set, you can always go to the architectural set, look at a building section view, and you'll have a roof height at least, to determine that height down, up and down for that. Okay, so same thing with number 3. Let's see what number 3 is, because number 6 is the same. 2-inch drain line down on wall, run out of wall, add da da da. Oh wait, that's 3. Okay, so we have 1-inch cold water going up to the second floor ceiling space. And then that typically makes sense. Our water pipes go up. Well, if it's a multi-story, it goes up and up and up. But, single-story buildings, usually, the water pipe. Everybody's water leaks from the top, right? When you have a leak, isn't the water always from the top? So, yeah, water pipes run through the building above. And so it's telling us there. And typically what I use as a rule of thumb, if it's a typical commercial building, is that it's a 10-foot height. Okay, especially if they don't tell me, and again, if they don't tell me, I should go look at the architectural set and look at a section view of a wall so I can determine at least the height to the roof rafters or something. Okay, or the height a foot or two right above the ceiling or something. That's where your pipes are going to run. Okay, so this is, pretty simple. And let's go to that call out and see what extra. And we'll go to enlarged. I'm sure that's the one. Yeah. Okay. So we're at the enlarged plan where that call out led us to. And so you see here more detail about the pipe. We have this here, and then we're breaking it up to cold water, hot water, 1.2 dot. So we know that that's cold water, hot water, and it's just running through. So again, these are horizontal measures. So even without a riser diagram, and then we'll see if we have one, and that's the diagram that shows us all the connections to all of these connections, all these circles. Okay, and from what I'm getting, they mixed everything together. So that dark lines are the sewer and vent lines. Yeah, because we don't have two separate plans. And in plumbing, we have typically, you have a separate plan for the sewer and vent, and a plan for domestic water. I call it the dirty water, clean water plan. Here they put everything together and thought, oh, okay, I'm assuming, let me just make it dark because I have my water coming in, and that's got to be the sewer. Everything's sewer here, yeah. And then our water is still coming in. So that's how they did that. That's a new one. Okay, so that's how they did that. And mop sink, P1, whatever that is. Okay, so this is our enlarged plan that we came to from this first floor plan, where it showed us all of this stuff. And let's see what 5 is. 5 is probably telling us to go up and down. Yeah, just the roof drains and stuff, not anything related to the sinks or the water closets or labs or whatever. And so that's why we went there, and boom, there's that. New water closets. We've got one half water coming in, and I'm assuming those are ball valves. I guess that's how they represent this stuff. One and one fourth, and then the transitions into. Okay, so typical plumbing set has a domestic water plan all by itself, and of course everything's connected to the same components, but it's just different pipes. Instead of the water, it, we'd have two different plans where it'd just be this black one running to where and the vent associated with it, and a second one where just the water pipes run into the same stuff, but we wouldn't see anything related to the sewer system on there. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that is a typical floor plan. And remember, these circles indicate the pipe is going either up or down, and your notes should tell you. And if they don't, we know that the sewer pipe is single story. Now, this multi-story, but yeah, of course, it's going to start at the top and go down or whatever. But single story, we know that sewer pipe is going to go down. And usually I give it a 6 foot down. Like I give it a 10 foot up for the water pipes. I give the sewers, everything that goes down, at least 6 feet to go down. Okay, and remember, if it's new construction, you also have to add that roughing cost. The very first time a piece of plumbing equipment is connected has an associated roughing cost. So anything from the ground up, any project from the ground up, not only has the pipe, the equipment, and the roughing cost, which could be substantial, and it's per piece of equipment. Okay, so this is the enlarged plan that goes with the plumbing plan. And next we're just going to go over the equipment schedules and why they are the way they are and what information that they give us. Okay, here we're looking at the equipment schedules. Schedule's just the term for a list. And we're going to get all of the plumbing fixtures and everything related to the plumbing scope of work, and what the mark is on the plan, what the fixture actually is, the manufacturer they require, the number, and everything related to it. Okay. And so that's the first part of the schedule. I'll write that down. Oh, I didn't. Hold on. Oh, we say it's about 1735. Okay. And so what we also see here, which is very important, especially if you don't get riser diagrams and you're just left in the dark, because you need to know the size of your pipe, the water pipe, that's the direct connect to each of the pieces of equipment. And of course, you need to know the sewer pipe size. And so that's what you'll also get if it applies. So for the drinking fountain, right, we have a drain, they have a vent, and everything has a vent that's related to your plumbing, for the simple fact of the sewer portion of every piece of plumbing equipment needs that vent associated with it. Okay, and yeah, so everything has a vent size, and it's usually, if the drain, and I found just from doing a lot of estimates, if the drain is 2 inches, then that vent associated with that is either 2 inches or 1.5 inches. If it is larger than 2, then the vent, and we're talking about the sewer, if that size of that sewer pipe is larger than 2, the vent is typically half the size. And I would just go with that. That's always been good for me for rule of thumb. Okay, so everything has a vent size. Okay, and for our water fountain, we know that the water, cold water that's coming in, it wouldn't have a hot water coming in, and we know that that's 1/2 inch of that pipe. So if we needed the vertical measure, we know that, okay, that drinking fountain's water is going to go up 10 feet. So now I know if I've got 10 drinking fountains within the school, then I have 10 times 10, even without the riser diagram. So well, I say that to say every piece of equipment, especially if it has water, the water portion, which everything does, has the water portion associated with it. you can just use the schedule. And if you have 300, lavs, you have a hot water and a cold water. So you figure, okay, that's at least 20 feet. If my rule of thumb is 10 feet per pipe, right? Because the water, cold water, hot water separate. So 10 times 2 is 20. So I know I have 300 sinks, and I know that the riser portion of that is 300 times 20. That's the riser portion of that. And then same thing, I usually give my sewer portion 6 feet. So 6 feet times 300. Now I have that vertical measure portion set. The plans give you the horizontal portion. And then if it's from the ground up, you have to add your roughing cost based on the type of equipment and the size of the pipe. So you always want to be able to navigate through your plumbing fixture schedule, because what does it do? It gives you the sizes of all of your pipe that is associated with that. And that's important if you don't have a riser diagram. Okay, so all of your equipment, exhaust fan, water heater, no, not exhaust fans, that's HVAC. All your pumps, water heaters, everything related to the plumbing scope of work will be here. That way you can look through here and determine what your labor cost is based on the size and type and, of the equipment. Okay. That's the plumbing equipment, and that is the valuable part. And here's the riser diagram. Okay, so let's make sense of the riser diagram. So we know that the horizontal measures are here. So anytime we see anything going this way, okay, it's shown to us on the plans. Okay, but the vertical is not shown. So what this is telling me is, so that's the waste and vent, and it's the water. You're always going to have them separate, just like you should have them separate in a plan. And so what I'm going to do is, they just give us the vent, waste and vent east. Well, where's the water? See, and it's still not as good as it should be, because they just give you waste and vent. And I could have done that, except for the vent. Now, the vent is helpful, okay, because you don't see that on the plan. And then the waste, like I said, you could give it 6 feet up based on the equipment. And I don't see, let me go to the next page to see if I see a water riser. No. So, they could have done that, but they also could have given you a water riser too. But that's why I say it's vital. Just go to your schedule, see the sizes here. If you've done plumbing long enough, you probably already know. And just, if it's a lav, it has 2. If it's a urinal, it has 1 water. If it's a drinking fountain, it has 1, whatever, and go from there. All right, so that's the plumbing equipment and some little raggedy riser. And now we'll look over, we didn't go over the roof plan, so let's do that next. Okay, so this roof plumbing is nothing more than the roof drains, overflow drains in particular locations, and the size and the route. And we know that they're interior to the building. And I think I don't know if it was this one, could have been some other ones. But yeah, we just have them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. And again, we don't know, your plumbing sets are not going to give you any information at all on the height of those 2 overflow and roof leader 6-inch drains going through the building. Okay, and so that's why, it's vital. Go to the architectural set, get a building section view, look at where the roof is, look at where ground is, and that's it. It's pretty much that simple. And each one of these is whatever height times 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, right? 8, 18, 2, 4, 6, 8, all of that, right? Because it's 2 per. Okay, times that height. plus the roof drain, overflow drain, the connections, and all of that. But again, there's nothing you should ever have to guess at, because there should be some good details somewhere showing you what that is. Okay, and speaking of details, we're going to look at those next. Okay, plumbing details are just that. That's the last thing we should look at to know how to properly put together anything, whether it's plumbing, HVAC, our drywall, our CMU block. It's going to give us everything we need to make a mock-up. So there'll be no way to mistake how the downspout nozzle detail should go. Okay, so we're just talking about that, right? Downspout, I think the leader, the overflow drain, is the one that comes out, and we see, okay, it comes down from the roof, right? Gotta get that 90, gotta get these two, then the penetration, whatever that takes to make sure it's correct, and then the nozzle, we have to have it at the correct height, we have to have all of this right, and the splash block. Okay, very simple, but yeah, you need your details to give you details, so you know exactly how everything is supposed to be in the final analysis, the final work through of this particular scope of work. Okay, so the sump pump, okay, the only thing, right, we're going to exclude the concrete, whatever, right, because we're the plumber. We're just going to install the pump and make sure it works correctly. And pretty much that's how that goes. Make sure it works correctly. So your details are just that, to make sure that final step in your construction is done correctly. All right, this is Stacy with SF Johnson Consulting. This concludes the whole series for this plumbing set. Pretty short set, but we'll have more to come. Larger sets for you to do more work. And make sure you take your quiz. See you soon.